Today, we're diving deep into one of the most chilling corners of the internet, murder-for-hire websites. And no, this isn't something out of a spy movie. We're going to look at how real this world is, who's in it, and what happens when a dark digital fantasy crashes into real-world tragedy. Let's get right into it.
So this is the big question, right? Can you actually log on to the dark web, send some crypto to a total stranger, and have someone killed? Well, the answer is, it's complicated. What you've really got is this bizarre, shadowy marketplace full of scammers, actual criminals, and a truly shocking number of just ordinary people willing to place an order.
All right, so how do these sites even operate? It's not like there's one single network. It's more like a whole underground economy, with different storefronts all claiming to sell the exact same terrible thing: violence.
And generally, you'll find two main flavors of these sites. First, you've got the total scams, like the notorious Besa Mafia. These are basically just elaborate traps set up to steal crypto from people who are trying to hire a hitman. Then, you have the so-called premium services. Sites like CrimeBay, which market themselves as the real deal, run by actual criminal groups, offering a whole menu of violent services.
I mean, just listen to this quote from an undercover agent's chat log. It shows you just how terrifyingly casual the whole thing is. The process is so transactional, so detached. It's like customer service for arranging a kidnapping. It's truly chilling stuff.
But the people running the websites are only half of the story. The other half, and you could argue the more disturbing half, is the customer. I mean, who are these people who are actually trying to buy these services?
The scale is just staggering. When a hacker broke into that scam site, Besa Mafia, and leaked all its data, it didn't just expose a few dozen sick individuals. No, it revealed thousands of messages from people all over the world, spelling out exactly who they wanted dead and why.
And you might think the targets would be, mob bosses or politicians. Nope. The vast majority of these requests were deeply personal. We're talking about people trying to get rid of their own husbands and wives, their business partners, or their exes. The sheer everyday banality of it all is what makes it so terrifying.
Here's a perfect case study of how these plots can play out. You have a surgeon, a respected professional, who wanted to get horrific revenge on his ex. So he hires an IT guy, they find a site, and they pay almost 10,000 euros in Bitcoin for the attack. But here's the crucial part: they were caught. Europol was able to follow those digital breadcrumbs and stop them cold before anyone got hurt.
But what happens when the intent is so powerful that getting scammed or getting caught isn't the end of the story? This is where the digital threat bleeds over into real-world violence.
And that brings us to one of the most famous figures in dark web history, Ulbricht, the guy behind the Silk Road. He built this huge online drug empire, and when blackmailers and thieves threatened it, he felt like he was backed into a corner. He decided the only way to protect his criminal enterprise was through murder.
And he was willing to pay a fortune. We're talking nearly $750,000 in Bitcoin to arrange 5 different hits. This wasn't some small impulsive thing. No, this was a significant, calculated investment in violence to protect his business.
But here's the wild twist. The hitmen that Ulbricht hired were actually undercover federal agents. They took his money, yeah, but then they sent him faked proof of death photos just to keep him on the hook. So in the end, his intent to kill was 100% real, but the assassins were not. No one was actually killed.
The Ulbricht case shows a line that, thankfully, wasn't crossed. But that's not always the outcome. What happens when a really determined customer hires a hitman who turns out to be just a scammer, and nobody ever shows up? For most people, that would probably be the end of it, but not for everyone.
And this brings us to the absolutely tragic case of Stephen Allwine, a church elder who wanted out of his marriage. He paid the scam site, Besa Mafia, thousands of dollars to have his wife Amy murdered. Of course, the scammers took the money and did nothing. But his determination didn't stop there. He simply did it himself. He murdered Amy and tried to make it look like a suicide. This case is the ultimate, horrifying proof that even if the website is a total fake, the intent behind that click can be deadly real. And, just like the others, it was his digital trail that ultimately led the FBI right to his doorstep.
So all of this really brings us to the most critical lesson in all of these stories. It's the fatal flaw, the big mistake that almost every single one of these digital plotters makes. They actually believe they're completely anonymous.
The Achilles heel in almost every single case is the payment. These people think that cryptocurrency is some kind of magic, untraceable internet money.
but they could not be more wrong. From that surgeon in Italy to Stephen Allwine, their Bitcoin payments left a permanent public trail for investigators to follow.
So how do they do it? Well, think of the blockchain as a giant public book of receipts that can never, ever be erased. Every single Bitcoin transaction is recorded there, forever. Now, it might not have your name written next to it, but investigators are experts at tracing the flow of those coins. They can follow the money from the moment you buy it all the way to the HITMAN website's digital wallet. It creates a perfect, undeniable digital breadcrumb trail.
And that leaves us with one final, very unsettling question. We saw it with the thousands of people on Besa Mafia, and especially with Stephen Allwine. The desire to kill was absolutely real. They took action, they paid money, they had a victim picked out. So from both a legal and a moral point of view, how much does it really matter if the person on the other end was a real killer or just a good scammer? It's a question that really cuts to the heart of what crime and intent even mean in our digital world.